So Lovaii, in our profession, we talk a lot about behavioral finance, and we love to spew a lot of jargon around that and sound very, important when we are mouthing that jargon. What we are hoping to do a little differently is we don't want to, talk about the jargon and what it means. What I'm hoping to do is to get from practitioners like you actual practical examples of cases where you've seen investors who are exhibiting certain behavioral biases which you thought were coming in the way of optimal investment decision making, and to what extent were you able, if at all, to help them overcome those biases and put them onto a road of maybe a little more optimum decision making. Because at the end of the day, what we try to do with this behavioral finance is really that, you take away all the jargon. So do take us through this example you mentioned about the case of the micromanaging investor.
Yeah, so this is somebody who came from an accounting background.
No wonder he's micromanaged.
Yeah, so I mean,
So
I'm saying
I'm
that
an
now
accountant
because
myself.
I am figuring out that that's what probably caused it.
Okay.
And early on in the relationship has been a client for a decade and a half, virtually right through the existence of the firm.
Okay.
And initially, when we didn't have the right software and everything in place, you would want to check whether, the amount that I mentioned as dividend payout is actually matching in his bank statement, paisa to paise, whether a particular investment is actually debited, whether a redemption is credited, and so on and so forth. And frankly, I had very little time. But he wanted to say that every time you have advice, you send it to me. Only if I say okay, you will go ahead and execute. So that was one issue, and we've still not sort of cracked it totally with this client. The other piece was, okay, if he suddenly found that, okay, equities are not doing well, something like that, he wouldn't understand the concept of allocation. And he said, till that is fixed, till I feel comfortable that equities will do well, I'm just going to accumulate money and keep it aside. So for large periods of time, there were, and there still is, a large portion of money which sits liquid till he is absolutely convinced that yes, this is where I should put it. And it doesn't work saying, okay, this is an election year, markets will be volatile, so put it in, let's do STP. No. You tell me what's the right time, what will be a trigger.
Which day I should invest.
Yes. But at the same time, if we found some other investment which we as financial planners might term speculative, not regulated, he was willing to commit large sums of money. But we also realized that he is somebody as an investor who likes control. So where he had control and he understood stuff, whether it was regulated or not, he was happy to take that decision and say, yeah, this investment of mine swung by 5% today and 7% in the last week, and one is plus, one is minus, and fine, it's sort of doing well, and I'm happy to remain invested there. So yeah, we're dealing with that. So still trying to figure out.
Have you been able to move the needle a little bit over the years, or is it?
I think it's moved sporadically. So for periods it might move, and then it just needs a small sort of slight sneeze, and it's, oh, there's a cold, there's pneumonia, so let's just wait for all that to pass. So it happens, and I still haven't figured out how to deal with this very well.
No, and it's not a case where you can give a lot more data to, to make him feel in control.
So he wants that data, but I think that, as we know, when we are looking at equity data, we are looking at a little more longer term data. If he starts looking at the data which we give him and say this is how it's longer term, but if it's in the last 3 months or the last, period between the last meeting and now, there has been a change, he says, what are you doing? Just because I am asking you, now you are saying, this is not doing well. So that sort of thing is something that we have to deal with. Maybe we have to, figure out a way. I think what you are pointing out is good. I must take advice from you. Maybe give him a lot more data.
I don't charge fees.
I know you can't. So a lot more data, that might help.
Yeah. No, that's a, I think for a lot of investors who have this, to put it very crudely, control mania kind of a thing, I think if we are able to understand that sometimes putting things on autopilot will at least make you complete that journey. Otherwise, you are still waiting for a takeoff or the right time to take
Right.
off.
Right.
It's better to put it on autopilot and say, okay, let's
Yeah.
get there.
Yeah.
But that's work in process, as you said.
Yes. Yes.
Great. Thank you so much.